And the sadist takes positive delight in causing pain to others. And the lulz culture, L-U-L-Z, the lulz culture online is a culture of sadistic, Machiavellian, narcissistic psychopaths.
Lulz, meaning like people are joking around shit posting.
Yeah. I did it for the lulz, and it's the plural of LOL, laugh out loud. But like if you look at the Urban Dictionary, for example, the definition of lulz is positive delight in the suffering of others. It's like, it's sadistic. And bloody well, social media just facilitates like
I never thought of lulz as being sadistic.
It's in and of itself, it's not a sufficient marker, right? You have to have like 6 or 7 things going on before it's clear that you're manifesting this underlying tetrad of personality traits. Like if you use the odd acronym and you're throwing out a joke at someone, this is a habitual pattern of doing nothing but provoking people online and using deception and lies to do it to attract attention to yourself. It has to be a very consistent pattern. But Paulos, first of all, and his crew of researchers and people who've been influenced by him have laid out this 4-dimensional structure of the dark side, let's say. And they've shown that hyper users of social media, Instagram, for example, and people who do a lot of anonymous shit posting are characterized by, what would you call it? Domination by those 4 traits. And part of the reason for that, this is very, very dangerous to our whole society, I think, is that you got to ask yourself what keeps the psychopaths under control in the normal population. And the answer seems to be, especially on the male side, is that narcissistic aggressive men get put in their place by non-narcissistic aggressive men. And that usually has to do with something like the threat of physical intervention. You know how it is if you get a bunch of guys together. I can make a joke about you, and I could even make a joke that was that sort of put you down. But the joke would have to be funny. You'd have to have the opportunity to reciprocate, and you'd have to believe that I was doing it in good spirit. Because if I just used the opportunity to, stick the knife in, we're not going to get along with each other very long. And we know that, and men know that when they talk to each other. And so part of what keeps dialogue among men civilized is the possibility that it won't be civilized if it goes too sideways. And everybody knows that. But there is none of that online. Because anybody can post anything about anyone, no matter how denigrating and derisive, especially if they do it anonymously, and there's zero consequence. In fact, quite the opposite. If they're good at it, they get a lot of attention, and the social media companies will monetize it. And so not only is it not inhibited, it's actually facilitated. And this isn't a trivial problem, because if the psychopaths multiply enough, they take the whole society out. So I think virtualization enables psychopathy. And it's worse than just the trolling bit. That's bad enough because it pollutes political dialogue and it makes everyone think that everything is more unstable than it really is. But online criminality is actually a terrible plague. I don't think there's an old person in North America who isn't being targeted by some gang of psychopaths who's, documented all of their interests and their locale and who knows how much money's in their bank account and who's doing everything they possibly can at every second to leverage access to it. That's just happening continually. So
that's certainly algorithms, right, for a lot of people that get trapped into these sort of situations where people are constantly throwing at them things that are opportunities for them to either make money or get this or
get
avoid
a refund
pain. Get a refund.
You bet. Or they befriend them. They get it in, and some lonely old character who's not functioning cognitively quite like he used to, he gets sucked in by someone pretending to be his friend and offered a great investment opportunity. And it's very, very, very difficult to track this sort of thing online. So you get the real enabling of the criminals, because how the hell, if they're anonymous, how the hell do you keep them, how do you hold them to account? And then a secondary derivation of that is something like trolling. And that's really not so good either, because if the psychopathic, narcissistic, Machiavellian sadists are dominating the political discourse, then ordinary people look at that and think, oh my God, everything's going to hell. Everyone's really extreme, and really it's a non-random sample. And so, I can really see this in my own life, because if you just looked at me virtually, you'd think like I was the world's most embattled person in some way, maybe not the world's most, but I'm up in the top 10 maybe. But in my real life, then that like I don't have any problems. You know, I go around from town to town or from city to city, and every interaction I have with people on the street is positive. They either don't know me, which is fine, or they do, and then we have a positive interaction. And I've only had like 3 negative interactions with people in real life in the last 6 years. And like they stand out because they're not fun, but they're extremely rare. But online, it's like, well, 50% of the people oppose Jordan Peterson. It's like, no, they don't. It's not even 1%. So we're building a virtual world that doesn't sample the real world very well, and that's not much different from building a delusion. So not good. Very, very unsettling. So,
That's Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly Twitter before Elon Musk came along.
Yeah, well, Twitter's better, but it's still quite the snake pit.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I think might be done about that. See, I don't think that I've made this claim on Twitter that there's something cowardly about anonymous posting, and I'm not going to retract that because I believe that in 99% of the cases that's true. Now, people say, well, you know, if you're a whistleblower, you have to be anonymous, and what about people in totalitarian states or in a company? Well, that's the whistleblowing problem. I think, 1% of anonymous posters are heroes, but like 80% of them are Machiavellians. And so...
Well, but there's also the factor of people that don't want to get in trouble at work.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's kind of the whistleblower problem.
But not even whistleblowers. I mean, people that just have opinions that
You mean that might get them in trouble with the College of Psychologists in Ontario, for example?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. And so, well, I think one of the ways of handling that technically, what I'd like to see happen at Twitter, for example, you know, not that I'm in a position to know because I know it's complicated, is I think the anonymous types should be separated from the real people. So you could go visit them and see what they have to say, but the verified people, you know, their comments are either at the top or in a different place. Because I don't think that we can set up a playable game online when the anonymous trolls have the same rights as the verified responsible people. And I also think, and I don't know what you think about this, Joe, but, you know, let's say you want to be a whistleblower, you want to say something that's going to get you in trouble at work. So you want to do it anonymously. It's like, well, maybe you're shirking your responsibility. Because maybe you have a responsibility, you know, and I could be persuaded alternatively, but maybe you have a responsibility if you have something to say it in your own voice and to put yourself behind it. You know, and maybe you're taking the easy way out by not doing that.